A developer delving into the iOS 18 beta release has found some quite explosive code that directly mentions the XRP payment API and incorporates XRP functionality into Apple Pay. This discovery might, completely alter the landscape of cryptocurrency adoption. Yes, the blueprint for XRP as a native payment option within the most popular digital wallet in the world is hidden deep within Apple's most recent operating system. If this is accurate, XRP will soon be accessible everywhere Apple Pay is accepted, including millions of stores, applications, and services. With only this one integration, cryptocurrency would transition from a speculative asset to a kind of regular money. Let's examine the implications for Apple XRP in the financial future. Let's examine what was discovered first. The developer in question was examining the Apple Pay framework files included with the beta release of iOS 18 while working within Xcode, Apple's official IDE. A new, unknown submission called PK Payment Network was among the anticipated entries for well-known payment networks including Visa, MasterCard, and American Express XRP. Other illuminating signs, such as XRP Payment API, were present alongside it. Crypto checkout. Indeed, there is a commented line in the XRP settlement layer code. This isn't a typo or placeholder. Network protocols must be genuine, operational, and internally vetted before Apple included them in its beta code. XRP is at the forefront of this early skeleton of complete cryptocurrency payment capability. Why XRP? Why not USDC, Ethereum, or Bitcoin? Apple's product philosophy holds the key to the solution. Speed, efficiency, little friction, and customer trust are all priorities for Apple. Apple's criteria are ideally aligned with XRP's transaction speed, sub-cent rates, and institutional compliance. Stablecoins are still unclearly regulated. Ethereum is pricey and Bitcoin is slow, fast, scalable, and regarded by regulators as a valid bridge currency for actual value transfer. XRP provides a compromise. It makes strategic sense to integrate XRP in addition to being technically sound. Financial innovation has always been embraced by Apple. They were the first to use Apple Pay for mobile payments. Together with Goldman Sachs, they introduced the Apple Card. Peer-to-peer transfers were instantaneous with Apple Cash. Furthermore, Apple isn't doing nothing as the fintech industry shifts to blockchain technology. This revelation of the XRP payment API might be the first indication to the public that Apple is getting into cryptocurrency on its own terms, silently, safely, and naturally, without fanfare. A press release might never be issued by them. Even though they don't specifically mention XRP, the possibilities are quite astounding, and the framework is being developed. Let's discuss the potential scope of this. Currently, Apple Pay has more than 500 million users worldwide and is approved in more than 60 countries. Now consider what would happen if just 1% of all Apple users chose to use XRP for payments. That's essentially 5 million new XRP users in a single day. Furthermore, the adoption rate would well outstrip any prior XRP announcements if you start considering 10%, 20%, or even half of all those users. No contest is no longer limited to a particular bank or payment corridor. The goal is to make every Apple Pay terminal a cryptocurrency payment processor and every iPhone a cryptocurrency wallet. The network volume would simply blow up, and the demand for XRP liquidity would soar. One of the earliest issues with cryptocurrency is real-world usage, which is really resolved by this type of integration. Yes, but can I use it to purchase coffee? That's a question that skeptics of cryptocurrency always ask. If XRP is added to Apple Pay, the answer is yes, immediately and almost everywhere. Consider it. Any establishment that accepts Apple Pay, like as Starbucks, McDonald's, Uber, Amazon, and Airbnb, will inevitably accept XRP as well. Furthermore, this is more than simply a theory. Actually, the code is already in the wild. XRP has the technology, and Apple already has the infrastructure. The big question is now raised by this. When this news eventually becomes widely known, what will happen? It is now mostly unknown, hidden away in specialized crypto circles and development forums. However, the price action may get, well, really crazy once it reaches media sources like CoinDesk, CNBC, or Bloomberg. The speculative surge would undoubtedly be enormous, but more significantly, institutional investors would begin to take notice. Since Apple has always taken the lead, others usually follow suit. PayPal, Google Pay, and Samsung Pay will all be under pressure to offer native support for blockchain-based payments. The XRP would become a standard rather than merely an Apple asset. The regulatory angle is another. Apple is cautious. Without legal clarification, they don't move. The fact that iOS 18 contains XRP code indicates that Apple thinks XRP is lawful. This may indicate that significant American institutions are at last getting ready to accept XRP without worrying about SEC penalties. You can be certain that a big change has occurred behind the scenes if Apple's legal team feels confident enough to release this code to public beta. Think about how this affects XRP's value. Hopes and litigation are no longer the basis for our price. We are pricing it as a worldwide payment currency that actual people use on a daily basis. The demand model is completely altered. Burning tokens and supply shocks are no longer issues. It has to do with transaction volume, liquidity depth, and retail velocity. A 10th 100 or even 100,000 price starts to seem modest if XRP accounts for even a small portion of Apple Pay's traffic. The infrastructure will soon be operational due to the existence of the utility and its user base. Let's deal with the doubters. It is possible to stage code. Yes, this might be internal testing, but Apple's unique payment system doesn't experiment with random third-party assets. It is clear that this is not a test balloon only by virtue of XRP's appearance among recognized payment networks. It is a component of a roadmap. The reasoning is excessively rigid. The financial incentives are too strong and the code is too well written to be disregarded. To be honest, this is just the beginning of the integration of crypto into the mainstream, through one of the most reliable consumer platforms on the planet, not through ostentatious alliances or dazzling announcements. With XRP added to the mix, hundreds of millions of people already use Apple Pay on a regular basis. We are not discussing adoption in the future. We are presently discussing usage. And that's how a working currency differs from a speculative asset. Let's take a time to consider alternatives to Apple. XRP will function everywhere if it does here. Apple establishes standards in addition to trends. These videos' content is solely intended for viewing enjoyment. Before making any financial decisions, I always advise viewers to do their own research and speak with experts. Many thanks for listening. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Additionally, to be the first to know when I post new stuff, make sure you enable the alerts. I can't wait to see you again in the next video. Be careful.